Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's Centre Network meeting aimed specifically at our centres in Scotland. Good day to you all. So before I go through the agenda and the plan for the next 45 minutes or so, just a little bit of housekeeping. We will be using the Q&A function within the Zoom system. So should you have any questions that you'd like to ask us during the event, then please type them into the Q&A area. And the panelists, the team behind the scenes, will do our level best to answer as many of those during the event as we possibly can. We'll also probably save a few of those questions to answer live at the end. Any questions that we don't get around to answering today, we will endeavour to get back to you all within the next couple of days with an answer to your questions. So the plan for this afternoon is to have the quality team recap on the delivery of vocational qualifications throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, and just remind everybody of the measures that have been put in place to make sure learners' progress is maintained as much as possible. We're then going to talk about best practice for delivery, next steps COVID onwards, and I'll be going through a business development update that focuses on ultra low emissions vehicles, ultra low emission zones, and the move towards a future which doesn't contain petrol and diesel, and all the opportunities that are presented to you, our centre network, over the next 10 to 15 years. So I'll summarise that by looking at things like TechSafe and a new partnership exciting partnership with Vocanto. So introducing the team, Adrian Stevenson will be taking over from this introduction, along with his colleague in the quality assurance team, Kidger. And then obviously myself, Chris Cotterill, to run through the business development section. So Adi, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Slight technical issue there. Well, welcome to everybody. It seems strange speaking to you all through this medium, especially when I'm used to being up there with you, but hopefully today we can run through a few things with you and reassure you that we are with you and help and support where we can. So I'm just going to give you a bit of an overview of what we've done in 2019-20 academic year, and also how we move forward this academic year as well. So last academic year we was fully supporting the centres through the pandemic. In relation to that, it wasn't just the external quality team that was out and about doing this. This included the customer service, business development team, and communications teams have been fully involved in the process, and ensuring that the centre network was aware of how we move forward. Internally, we had to create new communication lines and documentation to support the process and ensure that the learners were put forward for certification. So to go forward with that, we had to communicate with SQA accreditation to confirm the requests, the adjustments, which included a flexible approach to assessment and gathering the relevant evidence to complete those qualifications. Also, in line with government guidance, the IMI was liaising with other awarding organisations, so allowing standardisation and transparency across certificate claims. So was trying to make sure that everybody was following the same path and journey for those learners being certificated. Okay, so throughout the pandemic, the whole of the IMI has been open to support the centres. We've all been in since, even though we've been locked in at home kind of thing. The offices have been open now and again sporadically, but it's been a case of everybody's been supporting from home. The support's been mainly given through the use of technology, which is support given to centres through webinars and other virtual platforms. To support this, EQAs have been carrying out panel reviews to conducting these panel reviews, give us a good insight across the board, across all four nations, of how support can be given from the north and the south and everything. So it's been a full mix of people who deliver Scottish qualifications who are based in England and vice versa. Let's move on. The COVID FAQs, a really useful resource for centres. Everything's in there which you need. please take a look, very useful. So can you move on, Georgia, please? So what did we do in academic year 2019-20? So complete online test exams as normal. This became a real hardship for a number of centres. So what we did, the adaptive methods we'd use included utilising written assignments to meet the knowledge requirements, making sure the assignments were in depth, provide the relevant information. It was a good source of knowledge and help support certification. We introduced a new remote online invigilation process, which I'll run through again today. And we haven't had that many take the option up, but it's available and it's out there. And like I say, I'll discuss that later. Utilising previous prior recognised learning. There's a lot of candidates out there who've done other things. So we're trying to force the centres to make sure they are looking at every option so they could gather the relevant evidence to meet that requirement. We also had it where candidates were coming into centres as normal. So it wasn't a case of everybody being shut down. We'd still got people actively progressing their qualification in a normal way. Next slide, Georgia. So the VRQ skills, a similar thing again, utilising previously practiced skills and enhancing professional discussion to support those. So as learners were coming in, if learners have been practicing the skills and they haven't had a chance to complete the VRQ paperwork, was asking centres to carry out professional discussion and make sure it showed the skill set within there that had completed that. Utilise SVQ diverse evidence with assessors, Q&A answer to confirm that. That was, so we was looking at job card evidence to support that as well, which provided stable evidence to support the VRQ. Utilising SVQ observations across the board again. That was something that was utilised to great success with the centres. And also practical professional discussions at the lower levels adopted. We also allowed for diagnostic skills tasks to be in a virtually enhanced environment. So there's some lecture was carried out, other aspects of the learning was used to support that. Okay, Georgia. So SVQ competence, prior learning again. It's evident that there's enough happening out there. If there's anything in there you could have grasped to support that learner, it was key that we move forward with that. We made available remote observation. Yet again, I'll discuss that at a later date in this presentation, give you opportunities to move forward with that. We had direct simulation in the workplace, which obviously had to be live vehicles, but it was simulated in that, and also direct simulation in the training centre, which is not a skills test. It had to be a live vehicle again. And to back that up, obviously we had the employer witness testimonies of any evidence of that candidate completed before, which could have been delivered as audio, video, or written. Okay. So, okay, moving on. So back into 2020-2021 academic year now, as it seems the Central Belt, we're about to go into Tier 4, which I should imagine provide limited travel options for the assessors. So I'm going to recap on the use of technology of the assessment. So first things first with the remote observation. Okay, so centres can apply for remote observation, and in agreement it will be classed as a centre diverse assessment on Centres Hub. So use that form to complete that. This will give the opportunity for the learner to observe at a different place, making sure that they can do it safely and soundly and gather that evidence within that. It's critical though, within the assessment process, we need to ensure who's involved, the timing and recording the assessments need to be considered for all involved as well. So bear in mind the timings, the critical stages of that assessment, and record those and document those clearly so everybody knows internally and externally where those points are of assessment. From a health and safety perspective, mentor supervision is required. Obviously, as the assessor or IQA may be remote, away from observation, you need to have somebody on hand to stop that learner if there's an issue, or could be considered to endangering themselves. Okay. So through my observation, you've got the ability to ask questions, give feedback, still available with live recording and interaction with the learner. Screenshots of job cards are advisable, but obviously you could work your way around that vehicle, make sure that each critical stage of registration or anything like that is made available at the time. All recordings must be available for internal and external audit. Obviously, this will have to go to IQA processes of the centre and also the EQAs to review that information as well. Okay, Georgia, next slide, please. Remote invigilation of online assessment. Okay, so we've had this running now for the last 8 months. We put this together to support the network of centres. Obviously, this comes, if you wanted to go down this route, you can use inquiry form through Centres Hub. This will allow you to liaise with the EQA, help you provide with relevant evidence to support you through that. Obviously, you've got to make sure that it's a sound strength hardwire connectivity between that. Obviously, making sure everything's in place to support that invigilation of that assessment of that candidate. So within that as well, we have to make sure that effective invigilation and reduction of risk assessment activity, it must be conducted on a one-to-one basis, and the learner being monitored actively throughout the invigilation. Invigilation records must be completed and made available for audit. Also, this session must not be recorded, as this could compromise the IMI's quality question bank and lead to malpractice investigations. If you want further information on this, please discuss it with the EQA. I'll be more than happy to point you in the right direction. In the future, we are looking at proctoring exams, as we know this is more and more a route which we'd like to provide the centres with the opportunity of doing that. So we are looking at that over a number of platforms where we could be proactively doing this. So, okay, I'd like to pass you over to Grant now. Thank you.
Can I have the next slide, please? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. All IMI qualifications have a candidate assessment summary, commonly referred to as a CAS, that is available to download and use. The fundamental purpose of a CAS is to help the assessor, the trainer and the centre ensure that the learner's long-term aim is achieved. A CAS serves this purpose in 3 vital ways: to establish where learners are in their learning, to monitor learner improvements, and allow effective interventions if the learner is tracking behind. I've circled the rules of combination. This has been highlighted as an important factor if future lockdowns happen. The primary objective should always be the learner's agreed rules of combination. Remember to achieve mandatory units and the required number of optional units first, then work towards stretch and challenge units thereafter. This will prevent some of the issues that we've seen from the previous lockdown. Always ensure the competence of the components of the SVQ, the level 5 VRQ and the level 6 and 7 VRQ are aligned. Have the next slide, please. You might think it's strange I've included an off-qual CAS within this PowerPoint, but several centres are delivering off-qual qualifications to Scottish centres. An area that has been unnoticed by centres on occasions is the rules of combination set. A set is both the knowledge and the skill. In a few instances, I've observed that the credit value has been achieved, but the set has been overlooked. Next slide, please, Georgia. The current issue for some centres has been the completion of the VRQ task sheets. Please ensure all writable boxes are completed. The write-ups contain a detailed reflective account to allow an assessor to make the correct decision. I personally like to see images used as supporting evidence, and the EP, the electronic portfolio, has the added advantage of the storing photographs within the candidate's portfolio. Feedback should be supportive and factual. "Well done," "nice work," "could be better" are not the types of feedback that should be used to develop a young learner. Again, with COVID-19 in mind, if you do conduct practice sessions or attempts prior to the main task, then record these. Give feedback so reflective learning can take place and save the evidence. It might come in useful if there's another lockdown. During practice tasks, group subjects together, similar to a real-life working environment, utilising the workshop time effectively. Next slide, please. Improved tracking. It's been highlighted from the team of EQAs as a tangible advantage during the process of helping centres after the last lockdown. By having the qualification broken down into practice sessions, completed sessions, as well as signed off completed units, it helped EQAs guide centres. It's also been useful for assessor to assessor or assessor to IQA discussions for planning or reporting on learner progress. Having sight of learner developments against a target is also important. This tracking should align to the scheme of work being followed. This will allow the IQA to plan their sampling activities based upon this strategy. Following the scheme of work and the tracking against the strategy provides a clear, auditable trail that will support the learner's achievement and understanding. Please remember to claim the level 5 VRQ prior to moving on to the level 6 and 7. This will stop missed opportunities of claiming prior to certification end dates lapsing. This will allow the generic units to map across also. Next slide, please. Formative IQA. This is a real need for sampling to be increased by IQAs. Too many IQAs end load their sampling, putting learners at risk. The team of the EQAs will be reviewing IQA sampling plans and question strategies to ensure formative sampling is adequate. As highlighted in the last slide, it's advisable to align IQA sampling to delivery and the scheme of work. This provides the IQA with a clear timeline of when certain types of evidence or assessment will be available to sample. For an IQA to simply record "no evidence available at this time" is a waste of an opportunity. Also, IQAs that cut and paste reports are questionable and offer no support or guidance to the assessor. EQAs often find IQA reports are incomplete or identified issues are not signed off as completed, closing the loop. It's important to use SMART targets, being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound, to ensure closed loop reporting and to control what needs to improve or change. And finally, the IQA must ensure the award and organisation processes are being followed when claims have been made. The quality assurance at this stage is paramount, as it could lead to cases of potential maladministration or even malpractice. Next slide, please. I think the need for ePortfolio solutions is now more important than ever. The ability to review online evidence instead of physically auditing paper is a need for learners, assessors, IQAs, and the centre. GDPR should also be a concern for centres that have assessors lugging around a boot full of portfolios or worrying that a learner may have taken a portfolio home or lost it. Audits currently being conducted by the IMI have found that centres utilising an ePortfolio have a speedier and smoother process during engagements. Centres with electronic portfolio are achieving a clear view of candidate progress, and every learner can upload evidence, receive feedback, and understand their own progression better. Centre control is increased as assessor and IQA can work independently on the evidence at the same time and gives real-time learner development. There's various options available: OneFile, Smart Assessor, to name a few. The IMI version is also free and available. You may have noticed the IMI ePortfolios had a facelift and a data cleanse recently. These improvements are making the system faster and more user-friendly. Next slide, please. The IMI awarding homepage under Information Pit Stop has full details of qualifications on IMI's electronic portfolio. The IMI product team are continually working hard to update qualifications and Eportfolio solutions to accompany the qualification. Current qualification updates include the Level 5 and Level 7 SBQ and the diplomas or VRQ that include the electronic portfolio. The IMI have also extended Scottish bus and coach, lift truck and tyre fitting at the IMI Centre Network request. Next slide, please. All centres are required to make withdrawals of learners no longer on the programme. This will be a focus of EQA audits. It's a simple process for centres to clean up their data. The IMI web portal 2 offers the centre the ability to either withdraw a single learner or a batch of up to 1,000 learners. Keeping centre records up to date is important but often overlooked. Withdrawals are necessary for the IMI to gain clear sight of actual registrations versus claims, reduce risks on the centre where large inaccurate lists of learners are required to be sampled, leading to improved IMI audits. Next slide, please. I want to draw your attention to 6 qualifications that are due to expire this month, with a further 4 due next month. I would suggest that centres complete a sense check of any completed learner qualifications that may have been missed and not yet have been claimed. Last certification is an ongoing point to note and should be checked within IMI's awarding website as pictured. Quality Matters also posts notifications for qualifications expiring. There have been many instances where centres have not identified qualifications going into their lapse period that causes delays in certification impacting on the learners. Many thanks for listening, and I'll now pass you over to Chris for some fantastic IMI developments. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Grant. So for the next 10 to 15 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking to you about some really exciting developments in the automotive industry and how you, our centre network, are in a prime position to capitalise on what will be an enormous opportunity to bring in lots of commercial revenue outside of funded provision. Clearly, that's something that we're all focused on at this time. So where did it all begin? So we've been working with government, lobbying Parliament for various different mandatory standards and so on in the background for a number of years now. And we've been helping to inform strategic direction of policy. One of the documents that I've mentioned in previous network meetings over the last few years was the Road to Zero strategy. Now, I don't know whether any of you have seen the news today, but the 2035 target for removing petrol and diesel that was in this publication just 2 years ago, Boris has announced today that's now a 2030 target in England for the removal of petrol and diesel, with the exemption of some hybrid vehicles still being allowed. So it's clear that we're moving to an alternatively fueled future. And the reasons behind that, the drivers are carbon neutral targets for all sectors, all industries, and everything associated with environmental change and the policy surrounding that. The need for cleaner and clearer air in our urban areas. And tying in with that is the present day reality of ultra low emission zones within city centres. So what is the skills gap like? How much of an opportunity is there for training people as we move towards this future? Well, it's significant. On screen now is a study that was done with a number of people. So on the bottom of that slide, you can see the partners involved in the study. And the study is ultra low emission vehicle skills baseline. So what is the skills gap? And this is Scotland specific data. So Skills Development Scotland, Transport Scotland, the Energy Skills Partnership, the IMI, Scottish Enterprise and the Scottish Motor Trades Association all collaborated for this study to give us some real current accurate data as to who needs some form of training. So the results are in a big thick publication, but there's some really nice snapshots that come out the back of it. That was released in March of this year, by the way, so it's very current. As I just mentioned, the news from Boris today of a 2030 target in Westminster. At the minute, the Scotland in target for the removal of petrol and diesel cars and vans is 2032. Knowing how politics works, it wouldn't surprise me if that 2032 date for Scotland is brought in line with or is better than what's just been announced by Boris. So the important outtake that I want to take from that whole study was the number of people that need to be trained to achieve that 2032 target. So over 65,000 people have been identified as needing some level of training to support the uptake of hybrid and electric vehicles in Scotland. That's 15,000 people in repair and maintenance, so your traditional technician. So this isn't necessarily new people in, this is upskilling existing people as well. Just over 20,000 people in vehicle sales needing awareness type training. Just under 8,000 people in other roles like roadside assistance, recovery, first to the scene of an accident, breakdown and things like that. And around 22,000 people specifically in the emergency services requiring varying degrees of training from awareness through to something more complex. That will be a combination of CPD between that 65,000 people as well as formal qualifications. So there's a real mixed bag of solutions required. I don't know if many of you get access to the SMTA's Auto Insights publication, but issue 3, which is imminently about to be released, features a double-page spread about this research and the outputs that are required. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Next slide, please, Georgia. So what have we been doing to ensure that we've got a complete people development solution? Well, I mentioned a few minutes ago the collaboration that we've had with all stakeholders. So the Department for Transport, the Office for Low Emissions Vehicles, the Health and Safety Executive, to name a few, to advise the direction that our product offer to upskill the sector needs to go in. In line with that, we formed a sector advisory group a couple of years ago, and that group has been meeting regularly to inform the direction of our offer to make sure it meets the industry's needs. We've been developing a range of qualifications and accredited solutions to meet the needs of both the light and heavy vehicle sectors. And we have a complete range of qualifications on the shelf ready to go from levels 1 through 4. We have a network of approved centres nationally delivering this range of solutions. Some of you guys on the call today are included within that. And we're working to put industry drivers in place that it's not mandatory, the government aren't legislating any sort of minimum competence levels, but we are getting the industry together to do the responsible thing for us to police ourselves so the government don't need to. So we've been working very hard on IMI TechSafe, and I've got more to come on that in a second. The SMTA themselves in December are having an e-launch of something that they'll be bringing to market in Q1 of next year, towards the end of Q1, and that's something called their Auto eSure program. Now that program is independent testing of a garage's facility and processes, including people competence to be able to service, maintain and repair an alternatively fueled vehicle. So there's various different drivers in place that are going to drive a demand for training and competence. And of course, you guys are in a perfect place to capitalise on delivering this for the sector. Also, TechSafe isn't just about electric vehicles, it's also about advanced driver assistance systems, or ADAS as we'll commonly know it by. And Thatcham have been working with the insurance industry on the insurance industry requirements for safe repair of ADAS equipped vehicles. So if you just search Thatcham IRR, you'll see their specific guidelines that the insurance industry will be imposing on any repairer doing insurance work. British Standard Regulations 10125 are being amended to include the Thatcham guidance. And part of that guidance or requirements requires currently competent people to be carrying out ADAS recalibrations. So the IMI accredited assessment for ADAS, AOM 230, is the perfect solution for that, because it proves current competence, because it's a 3-year cycle of assessment and reassessment. So for those that are delivering for the accident repair and glazing sector particularly, there's great opportunity there because there'll be significant demand. And finally, we've been working in the background to build partnerships which deliver wider solutions for our centres to take advantage of. So we've established partnerships with an organisation called Lucas Nuller. For those that were involved in the network meeting last year, I did a session on that, and many of you have taken advantage of looking in more detail as to their hardware and software solutions and training equipment for the delivery of electric vehicle qualifications. And also in a few minutes, I'm going to be talking about a new partnership that we've formed with an organisation called Vocanto, and that's going to bring to market via the IMI a new platform and content to meet e-learning needs. Clearly, COVID has highlighted the need to have e-solutions for learners to continue progress. And yeah, I'm very pleased to give you a few screenshots of what that platform may look like. Georgia, next slide. Thank you. So TechSafe, many people have heard TechSafe, but I thought I'd try and summarize it in 50 words. So here goes for you to get your head around. So TechSafe registration ensures that complex automotive technologies, so at this stage, EV, ADAS, and in the future, hydrogen fuel cell, autonomous, connected, anything that has a safety implication related to the technology. Ensuring those technologies are safely and correctly repaired by qualified technicians. To be registered as TechSafe, you must successfully complete an appropriate qualification or accredited solution, join the professional register, and I'll show you the new proposed professional register in a second. I've got some screenshots of the redevelopment of that to show you. And then to stay on the register as TechSafe, complete CPD from a specified range to maintain that professionally TechSafe registered status. So the sector advisory group that I mentioned a little while ago, we're working with them on a framework for capturing CPD and recording CPD to make sure that you kept yourself currently competent to stay TechSafe on the register. Georgia, thank you. So what will the new TechSafe register look like? So what I'm showing you here are some screenshots of early development. It may look slightly different when we go to market in Q1 next year with the new professional register, but it will be accessed via the IMI's landing page. In the membership tab, there will be a professional register section, and the design of it will be to access either search for a member, search for business, or search by location. So in the UK, that will be postcode, but internationally, you'll be able to search within a country for professionally registered people. So if you click on member and search, the screen that you'll bring up will be the next screen that George is going to click onto for me. Thank you. And it will have a list of registered people with filters down the left-hand side. You'll notice that one of the filters is TechSafe, so you can specifically search for people who have achieved the TechSafe standard. And the TechSafe bit will have drop-down, so you can search for EV TechSafe or ADAS TechSafe or whatever it may evolve into in the future. You can search by membership grades and other things like that. Next slide, please, Georgia. When you click view on an individual, you go onto their own page, which has got all of their details. And you'll notice in the middle, it says what they're qualified to work on. So where on that development slide, it says electric vehicle, it will specifically list what qualification they hold. So if they're on their TechSafe register for their EV competence, it will say level 3, level 4, or what specifically it is that they have to be on the TechSafe register. And you can also see that it's got the employer's details on there as well. So it's good for the employer to be able to showcase they are investing in their staff, and their staff are professionally registered and TechSafe. It's great for their advertisements and customer contact. Next slide, please, Georgia. Okay, so more to come next year on that. I'm sure we'll have another webinar when we're ready to launch that to give you a full briefing on how it actually looks when we reveal the finished version. So e-learning. Yeah, we are launching in Q1 next year a very exciting new platform with brand spanking new content to hopefully give our centre network access to a market leading e-learning platform and content. I'll show you a few screenshots of what the platform will look like. We are working with the company that we partnered with to brand it where appropriate, so it may look slightly different when you guys see it for real. But next slide, please, Georgia. We will be initially going to market with a vast amount of electric vehicle related brand new content, as well as some light vehicle diagnostic content as well. But we will, over the next 12 to 18 months, be backfilling that with all the foundation content that's required for all levels of qualification. So it'll be a phased approach. Phase one will be EV and light vehicle diagnostic, and then we'll be bringing more to market over the coming months and years. So for EV specifically, there are 16 modules to introduce EV. So great for the non-technical roles, some of the emergency services, some of the salespeople, so some of those 65,000 people in Scotland that were identified earlier. We've got 9 modules for the safe handling of high voltage systems, 16 for batteries specifically, and then 4 modules on diagnostics for EV. So an enormous amount of EV specific content. Next slide, please. So the platform is a fresh, new, modern looking platform. It's this type of platform that people will be familiar with if you're used to like the Netflix systems, the Amazon Prime Video systems. It will be tiles with content. It will be customizable. So a tutor will be able to set up groups and classes and add content for their learners to take advantage of. So it's a very, very interactive system. So what I've chosen there is I've just put a red square around the battery modules. So if you were to click on that, the screen you'd see would be the next screen. And you can see all of the content that's available there for batteries. It has gamification built into it. So you'll notice that there are XP points. So if you do a module and you get everything right, you'll get the maximum amount of XP points. If you get anything wrong, then your XP points will go down. So it creates a little bit of competition. Well, the researchers found that people revisit because they want to get the maximum amount of XP points, because badges and awards and things like that are awarded to their profile. You'll notice along the bottom that there's a tracking bar. So it shows you your progress you're making within a given unit as an individual, and the tutors can have an overarching view of the progress their learners are making. And a really great thing that's built into it is the QR codes. So if you imagine as a trainer, you've set up a classroom with a couple of resources in it, or a workshop with a battery, a motor, an inverter, you know, on a bench. You can print a QR code off for specific learning modules. You can stick that to the resource, so you can do some classroom delivery. You can get the learners going off into the workshop or a different area of the classroom. The learners can, on their device, scan the QR code and it goes straight into a relevant section of e-learning. So it really is a great interactive system. Next slide, please, Georgia. So when you're in the e-learning itself, typically there's paragraphs worth of text learning, and then something interactive to do. So it will either be a video clip, an image, or a 3D animation. So on this particular animation, you won't see it because it's just a still, but you can see it says click on the specified components. Number 1, isolating plug housing. So if you were to click on the black housing for the isolation plug, you'll see the orange plug fly in, lock into place, and then the battery will spin around to reveal the other component areas for you to identify and click on. So it really is high quality, interactive, meaningful e-learning. That's not just reading and typical PowerPoints that have been converted into an e-learning platform. So there's an early sight of what we hope to go to market within Q1. We're just working on the operationalizing of bringing it to customers, integrating it with our systems. But we're really excited about it, and we can't wait to show it in more detail. Georgia, next slide, thank you. So in summary, work needs to start today for us to meet ambitious government targets for all of the devolved nations on that carbon neutral, getting rid of petrol and diesel cars from our roads. And people development is one of the most important pieces of the infrastructure jigsaw. So obviously you need charge point, obviously you need hydrogen fuel cell filling stations, but if the people aren't there to support the development, then it isn't going to work. So you, our approved centres, will play a vital role in addressing the significant skills gaps that do exist today. So if any of you want to talk more in detail, please get in touch with either myself. Now, as you probably are aware, Malcolm Hairsign, my business development manager that takes Scotland as their region, is currently off on long-term sick. He's well, he's doing good. It's actually his birthday today, so if any of you've got his LinkedIn profile, wish him a happy birthday. He should be back at work in the new year. In the meantime, we've got interim support in the form of Mark Forshaw, a trusted consultant, ex-IMI employee from the business development team. So he knows his stuff. He's available. I'm available. Please talk to us. We'd love to talk to you about your needs. So yeah, that's the sales pitch done. So Georgia, move on. Any questions? I can see in the Q&A area that there've been a few questions, but actually they've all been answered. So nothing live to answer. Great. Georgia, yeah, thank you. So it is being recorded, by the way. I forgot to mention at the beginning that we're recording the session. So we will make the recording available for you to share with your teams, watch back at your leisure. We'll also send a copy of the presentation around as well. Obviously, you'll then be able to use the live links that are embedded within it. So there's some useful links there to various different IMI landing pages, departments, and email addresses. And all that remains for me to do is to thank Adrian, Grant, and also Georgia in the background for organising all the admin and operating the technology today. So thanks, Georgia. And thanks for your attendance. Bye-bye. See you soon.